There's pressure from the left as well, from like the Squad, talking about importance of protecting Palestinians, worrying about Israeli strikes in Gaza, what they're doing. But again, I think Biden is really facing more important for him pressure from the right. For example, he's still wanting to make sure that we have funding for the Ukraine war as well. A group of Senate Republicans has introduced a resolution that's only for Ukraine aid, only for Israel aid, doesn't include Ukraine. Biden doesn't want to do that. He wants to make sure they're both funded. So he's got to manage a lot of different things here when it comes to Israel, while also keeping Ukraine, he wants to support there as well.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by White House reporter Haisten Willis. Haisten, President Joe Biden has to deal with a new Speaker of the House now. Finally, House Republicans have elected someone. Mike Johnson's a little more conservative, certainly more socially conservative. What kind of challenges maybe will President Biden face in this new relationship?
Yeah, this is going to be different for him compared to what he dealt with McCarthy. I think overall it's not going to be that different. I do think they definitely enjoyed the 3-week interim where there was nobody there. They put out a lot of stuff, the Biden team did, during that, talking about a split screen. We're trying to help Americans while they can't even pick a speaker. So that worked out pretty well for them. And I think Republicans would admit that was pretty chaotic and not necessarily a good thing for their side. So they got somebody now, like you said, Mike Johnson from Louisiana. Yeah, and he is more conservative than McCarthy. That should satisfy, I guess, the more conservative wing of the House Republicans. There's already been some controversy about him, things he's done in the past. He was involved with, I guess you could say, election denying when it came to Trump. There's been questions about that. Abortion statements he's made in the past. He's strong on those kind of things. But again, he's got to get the votes through in the House to get anything passed. So we'll see how much different that is. Biden has talked about it, wanting to be bipartisan and work across the aisle, things like that. We'll see. I imagine the honeymoon won't be super long for those two.
No, it probably won't be super long, since almost immediately they're having to deal with government funding deadlines and trying to avert a government shutdown.
That's right. Less than 3 weeks to go for that, so they're going to jump right into the fire with that, which they can do now because they have a speaker. But that should probably start getting pretty hot and heavy pretty quickly here.
So now, one of the enduring political problems for President Biden since he's been in office has been immigration and the border. And the border situation is something that Biden has tried to sort of recalibrate, both rhetorically and in some small policy areas, pivot maybe a little bit.
Yes.
Hasn't really worked out so well so far, though, has it?
Not so far. The numbers are still continuing to go up as far as number of border crossings. I believe they're on pace still for another record year. They set a record year for border crossings in 2021, another record in 2022. They're in danger of setting yet another one in 2023. The September numbers, I believe, are the highest on record. But Biden has recently made a couple of pivots. They tried to kind of downplay these, like, we're not really pivoting, but the moves are pretty unmistakable. One was they're building about 20 miles of new border wall. Biden had said during the 2020 campaign he wasn't going to build another foot of wall. So instead he's building 20 miles. Still not very much in comparison to the length of the actual border, but a lot more than a foot. The second one is they're going to start deporting Venezuelan nationals. That one's really interesting because it was just a few weeks ago that they announced they were going to grant temporary protected status to Venezuelan nationals. So they kind of gave the people coming from Venezuela a plus not that long ago, and then announced that if you came in after July 31st, not only do you not get temporary protected status, you are subject to deportation on a commercial flight back to Venezuela. So those were just recently announced. We'll see really how those play out over the next few months, but so far things have not changed when it comes to the border.
So in addition to all of the domestic political concerns, President Biden's dealing with some foreign policy crises, and these have political implications as well. And as we look at the war in Israel, the war in Gaza right now, Biden's under a little bit of pressure, to be tougher on Iran. But also he has some progressives who say that they have to be more concerned about Palestinian human rights. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, he's, I guess, facing pressure from both sides, like you said, maybe trying to triangulate, using the old Clinton term. Most of the pressure, though, the more overt pressure, and probably the pressure that's going to matter more for him, is coming from the right. People saying he needs to be basically even stronger in supporting Israel, getting funding for Israel. That's coming from the right. There's pressure from the left as well, from like the Squad, talking about importance of protecting Palestinians, worrying about Israeli strikes in Gaza, what they're doing. But again, I think Biden is really facing more important for him pressure from the right. For example, he's still wanting to make sure that we have funding for the Ukraine war as well. A group of Senate Republicans has introduced a resolution that's only for Ukraine aid, only for Israel aid, doesn't include Ukraine. Biden doesn't want to do that. He wants to make sure they're both funded. So he's got to manage a lot of different things here when it comes to Israel while also keeping Ukraine. He wants to support there as well.
And of course, it all ties into the whole government funding, government shutdown stuff as well.
Yeah, all that's really going to come to a head, right, as they're looking at the government funding, government shutdown, potential government shutdown in a few weeks.
Thank you, Haisten. You can read Haisten and the rest of our political team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.